Before we start, I'd like to know, what's your favorite film? What series are you currently watching? I bet it's foreign. And when I say foreign, I don't mean French speaking or German speaking. I mean English films and English series. If you're watching this, you're probably consuming some sort of international content, and this media has an effect on us and how we perceive the world. So in the same heartbeat, in the same tone, how does the content we consume affect our transnational journey? Do you consume any transnational content? Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Transnational Identity series, and in this episode we're going to be covering how transnationalism is mediated and what kind of content transnational individuals consume. So this sounds like a lot of big words, I know, but you know the drill. We're going to go through it together. You should know by now, I'm Tanya Maswari, and in this episode we're going to be talking about media and the mediation of transnationalism, specifically the content we consume as transnationals and also how transnationals are presented in the media. So that is essentially the long story short definition of mediation. We are going to be talking about the mediation of transnationalism. Mediation. Yes, mediation is how transnationalism is presented in the media spaces. That's how I'm using the word, at least. So I'm going to start by giving you the bracket of media we're using. Now, when I say media, I'm talking about everything. News, movies, music, social media trends, TikToks. I'm talking about all of it and how we are connected to it or how we react to it. And I'm going to start us off by looking at some research. The Migrant Research Hub has covered several media representation articles specifically in regard to migration, and in several of those articles there's a few similarities. Initially, they're talking about migrants, specifically refugees, and how they're represented or how and why they move around. And then there's one major topic, stereotypes. Now, what stereotypes have you heard about transnationals or migrants? Let's hear from our participants.
So in mainstream media, I think sometimes they have a thing of wanting for certain characters to resonate with a lot of people, right? So then they oversimplify the experiences, right? So for a lot of people, let's say if you're just British Jamaican, right? They'll take the most probably stereotypically facets of that identity, package it into a character, and then sell a character off. There's a lot more nuances that go into, being the person that you are.
So in the nature of being transnational, most of our participants are living away from their country of origin. So I had to ask them, do they watch any news? Do they consume any content from their country of origin? If they do, why? If they don't, why not?
Sadly, not that often, because I remember I saw one that went really viral and I was just horrified with it because it was just a comedy about making fun of everything that's in Zim, traffic lights don't work, the traffic is horrible, infrastructure is horrible. So I don't consume that much Zim media in that sense because I don't want to see my people, I'm going to use my people, but my people making fun of our country because it just makes it okay for other people to do the exact same way because they're like, oh yeah, this Zimbabwean comedian did this, so I can do it because he said it and he made it a joke out of it, so it's funny.
I do listen to Thai music. Do I understand it? Not really. But do I consume it? Yes. Do I watch Thai movies? No. TikTok videos, etc.? No. I don't have that much of a social media presence.
I would say I predominantly consume South African media with predominantly South African international. So I think a lot of the news that I get about the African continent comes from BBC. So obviously that can be a bit warped, but obviously I think because I have a Zimbabwean family, also a lot of the things that I hear then go look for personally our conversations that we've had around the dinner table, or things that have just popped up in the family group, you know?
Honestly, the media I mostly consume is American. I would say like American shows, American music, and then some British music and shows as well. But yeah, there's unfortunately a strong leaning towards America, which is interesting because I have no real connection to America. But I do kind of make an effort to stay in touch with like Irish and South African artists.
Now, the responses seem quite basic sometimes if you look at it from the point of view of they're basically just watching what everyone else is watching. But sometimes even in that content that everyone else is watching, you kind of look for similarities. I think part of the mediation of transnationalism is seeing a representation in the media we consume.
So the media plays a very pivotal role in these transnational communities. You will find out that mainstream media here does not cover the stories that the transnational communities do follow up. So what you will find is that within the transnational communities, they've started developing media houses themselves. And the type of stories that they tell has got cultural connotations. And they know what is a joke to them. Because jokes are culturally, they are culturally told. Because in another culture, until you understand the culture, you would not understand it, the joke. And there is also, if you are going to go for hard news, there is the political slant that people would actually be transnational communities have remained connected to the political happenings back home, and that space needed to be filled by certain media houses.
Okay. Do you think there's enough representation, or do you see enough representation for...
I mean, I would like to see more. I don't think that there's enough for me, but for other people, maybe there is enough. For me, there isn't enough. And whenever I see some representation that particularly pertains to my specific experience, which is not most people's experience, then it digs into emotions that I don't really know that I'm feeling a lot of the time. And then my brain thinks, wow, this is fascinating. I'm going to delve more into this. Why do I feel this way? What am I seeing here that I don't see elsewhere? And why does it hit home so closely for me? Like, I don't look outside and think, I want every single thing that I see to be representing me. But I think if it could increase a bit, I would like it, yeah.
Now, popular culture has tried to be as inclusive as possible, with most networks trying to include a diverse set of actors who come from different backgrounds and migrants who actually relate to certain experiences. Now, this can be so exciting for transnational individuals, especially coming from a place of looking for a connection. Remember that feeling of being foreign that we're talking about? It's that. You're trying to find someone who relates to your experience, even in the content that you're consuming. Fortunately, we can list a few movies, shows, and series that have covered this kind of demographic. Movies like The Immigrant, A Better Life. Believe it or not, we can fit Encanto into this category. Shows like Spanglish, Bob Hart's Abishola, Fresh Off the Boat, Kim's Convenience. You can notice I picked a lot of sitcoms because those are the shows I've actually watched. And from my personal experiences, as much as they are in the American side of the world, I enjoy seeing that connection with their parents, how they have a certain standard that they have to reach. There's this element of academic achievements that you need to prioritize. There's the element of feeling weird in your accent, feeling different because your parents sound different or they look different. And those small things were what excited me when I watched these shows. I mean, I love my other sitcoms, Friends, all of that. They're great. But just something about Kim's Convenience and relating to their daughter who's doing photography, journalism, instead of medicine, and how that feels as an immigrant. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you can relate even when I'm not talking about the migrant experience. That desire to find a connection in the media you consume. It is clear we're trying to mediate transnationalism in our content, in the content that they create in Hollywood. But sometimes even the content we send each other on social media. Remember those WhatsApp groups I was talking about? Precisely. What are we sending to each other?
I would refer you to a paper that is part of an edited volume looking at migrants' connectivities amongst hometown association. And in this paper, I argued that hometown association play a serious role in bringing migrants together corporeally or virtually. And they are all affiliated to the main hometown association, where these migrants are linked by an email. So there is one email that is sent out to all migrants. So whatever is happening at the home front, all the migrants, they get to know because of this email that is sent to them, and they all participate in activities, that developmental activities at home, building schools, hospitals, road maintenance, electricity. So they contribute towards home village development.
One of our experts, Raphaela, is actually doing her research in transnationalism as well, but hers is specifically on media and how her family mediated their transnational identities, as her family is also living away from South Africa. She is half Swiss, half South African.
My name's Raphaela Linders, and I'm currently doing a practice-based PhD in fine art at Rhodes University. And my current title for my PhD is Analog to Digital, Exploring Transnational Memory / Loss through the Re-Representation of Familial Intimacies Within a Creative Practice. So I am working with an analog archive, an 8mm archive that my grandfather took over the years, as well as a digital archive of my nieces. And it was inspired by my grandmother's sudden loss of memory. She has dementia, as well as my niece's, the birth of my one niece, Franklin, and her abundance of photographs that have been taken of my nieces growing up. And we're a transnational family, so half of the family lives here in South Africa, the other half is in Switzerland, and then my sister's partner's family is in Australia. I think whenever family photos or family films are shared within a family, there's always a sense of belonging that is felt within that family. I think family media gives a sense of belonging, especially for a transnational family, because it's a space where oftentimes it's at family events where everyone's together and that's documented, or on holidays, like all heightened states of being rather than like the behind the scenes of life or like the boring stuff or whatever.
She presented this in a form of a beautiful exhibition in a film, and this speaks volumes to the layers of media within the transnational experience.
The main thing about my PhD, or the practice side specific, so it's not only about transnationalism. I suppose transnational is a section, but the other section is photography and memory. So, but all linked to the lived experience of transnationalism, and basically what is transnational memory, or what do these archives mean for a transnational family? What does it mean to have these 8mm footage, this 8mm footage for a family that lives in different countries? And what does it mean that these photographs or these screenshots that I take of Franklin and Finan on my phone in a whole other country, what does that mean for their identity formation?
So when I began this research, the first thing I did was search up transnational on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, you name it. And to be honest, there isn't much content. Like I said, this has been researched before, but it is predominantly in research paper formats and in books, which is great, but it's also great to have a conversation like this, to have videos like this. Hopefully you can clip this short and share it to a family member to try and explain it better. Social media is the space we all dwell in right now. Even most of my research comes from social media. So it is important, it is almost crucial to have the transnational topic within this space as well. In a nutshell, that's why I'm doing this. The media has presented transnational individuals or migrants in typically limiting perspectives sometimes. There's so much stereotyping, underrepresentation of certain individuals like women, negative portrayal sometimes, and sometimes just a pure lack of in-depth research. And again, this is specific to the media that I'm talking about, which is video and social media content. And even in that research, there's sometimes a certain phenomenon of them talking about us and not us talking about ourselves, which is why I also felt it was important for me to narrate this series rather than have myself in the background behind the camera and behind the scenes alone. It's been a long series, and we've spoken about a lot, and I'm sure you've probably forgotten a lot of things. We spoke about the definition of transnationalism and what that means to transnationals and people around us. We spoke about sociality and how transnationals connect or remain connected or break connections. We spoke about religion, culture and beliefs, language and accents. We've covered so much. And this is just all for you, all for us to understand fully or to actually begin the process of understanding the transnational experience. All I can hope is that the series has helped you understand or get to know the demographic that is the transnational identity group. It's not really a solid group, and I mean, to be frank, you could just loop us up in immigrants, but I can at least hope that you have taken this as a new journey, a new element, a new academic route that you can begin to explore within yourself, within your family, or within your community. My job here is basically done. And I hope you can continue to share this message or relate to this or laugh about it in your own spaces. Share the positivity, share the experience, as diverse and as crazy and as layered as it can be. And I just hope that you understand and you see that in our differences, we are more similar than you can ever imagine. Goodbye.